At this point, I have most of the arch completed. There's one last section that I want to work on. So I'm going to select this, right click and say hide selection. And I want to get these decorative elements added to my arch. So let's look at what our options are for building something like that. Let's go over here. I'm going to restore my viewport and just kind of view this from the front here. So I'm looking at the shape. I don't necessarily want to get all this decorative detail in. The same with kind of the lines down the front. I'm going to keep it relatively simple to just kind of get that basic form. So I think what I might do in this case is I'm just going to make a box here. No, let's not do that. Right click, and I'm going to unhide all. I'm going to select my arch, right click, go into object properties. And now in here in object properties, I'm going to set my visibility to 0.1 and say OK. I'm going to right click on my arch and freeze selection. So now my arch is in the scene, it's transparent, and it's frozen, so I can't accidentally click on it and move it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here and make a box. Click and drag. All right, and now right click here in the top view, switch to move. I'm just going to move this out. Let's zoom out here on the left, and make sure edge faces is on, because I want to move this out so that it's flush with the surface here. There we go. Okay. Now I need to take this piece of geometry I just built and I need to give it more height. So if I click and drag, so let's take a look here. So probably a value of something like 8 and 35 and 5 is a really good place to start. And what I'm going to do here is called box modeling on this. I'm just going to right click on it and say convert to edit poly. And now in polygon mode, I'm going to click on one polygon here and orbit around to the bottom, and then just click on the very bottommost polygon and then orbit back around. Alright, so I'm going to take this one here, I'm going to do a little bit of an outline on it, maybe negative 0.5, and click OK. And then over here on the left, I'm going to right click to make that active and just drag that back. And now let's come over here to extrude. And so I click on extrude. You can see here in the viewport I had active. It's extruding down. I'm just going to click OK for that default. And let's move this down, and we're going to outline again. And I think that outline's good. I'm going to move this back because it's kind of slowly tapering everything down. But here in this viewport, I actually want to make this a little bit more like that. There we go. All right, so let's extrude this down. Click OK. And I'm going to switch to move. I hit W on my keyboard to switch to move that time. I'm going to drag this back up. And then I'm going to extrude again and just click OK. I'm going to take the bottom of that and move it all the way down so it's sitting flush here. So let's zoom out and look over on the side. We want it sitting on the top of this sort of column portion there. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Let's orbit around here. I like how this is looking. All right. So now let's zoom in here on the front. I'm just going to region select because I want to get all the edges going all the way around on this little neck portion here. I'm going to click on extrude, but I need to change my extrude type from group to local normal. I'm just going to bring that in a little bit like that and click OK. And now I'm going to switch to edge. I'm going to double click on this outer edge here because I want to get that entire loop. I'm just going to raise that up. There we go. So now we kind of have that sort of portion there kind of built up for that piece of geometry as it's kind of sitting there on the arch. So that looks kind of nice. I think we're going to be happy with that. So now it's right click, unfreeze all, and I'm going to click on my arch here, go into object properties, Set the visibility under rendering control. Let's set the visibility to 1 and click OK. There we go. So now that's that little arch portion sitting there. If I right click and hide the arch, let's take this piece here, and I'm going to right click and say clone as a copy and say OK. And I'm just going to move that over to the side and line it up with where it would sit on the reference. And now we'll right click and unhide all. Let's look and see how these two are sitting together. I think that's looking pretty good. Yeah, I like that. So now we can click on the arch itself and we can attach these. So you want to make sure the arch is selected. So now if I go into attach, I'll click to attach those pieces. All right, now it occurs to me that we have some polygons here that you're never going to see. If I click on this and orbit around, I'm going to come over here to edit geometry and say hide unselected. So if I go into polygon, I'm going to click on this and orbit around. There's these backside polygons. I'm going to switch to select object up here on the top. I'm going to click on this one polygon and hit delete on my keyboard. I'm going to leave, yeah, just click on those polygons right there, because basically you're never going to see these. These are always outside of the view. So if I click unhide all, click on this top polygon and orbit around, yeah, the polygons that I just deleted, you're never going to see. So I could also conceivably, if I click on, I'm going to come up here and change this to wireframe. I'm going to click on the vertices that make up kind of these back corners on this guy. And then I'm going to change my view to be my left view and hit Z on the keyboard to zoom in. Let's zoom in where those are. There we go. There's the back sides of these. I'm just going to move them over and line them up with kind of the back of this, because you're never going to see those polygons sitting there. And so if you have polygons like that you're never going to see, like if I come through, let's switch to wireframe again. Actually, let's click on this piece of geometry, say hide unselected. If I go into polygon and just kind of orbit around here, oops, I'm going to use my orbit down here because this will work better. There we go. This one polygon on the bottom you'll never see, so I want to click on him and delete him. This other one, the backside, you are going to see because it does kind of poke out a little bit on the side. So let's unhide all. If I click on my arch here and say hide unselected, I do have some polygons here on the bottom that you're never going to see, so I can delete those. And what we're doing is we're optimizing our model. If there's polygons that you have inside the scene that you're never, or on the model you're never going to see, you might as well delete them. They're just will save you memory. Let's click on this guy and say hide unselected. Orbit around. Yeah, we'll delete that one off the bottom there too. And let's unhide all. All right, so let's zoom out here. Let's make this a front view again. And zoom out, and I'm going to make this my perspective view. Make this full screen. Zoom out. Wow, there's a giant piece of geometry out here. Let's just delete that and hit zoom. All right, go back into default shading. All right, so here we go. We kind of got our pieces. Let's finish this off now that we've done a little bit of optimization by removing edges we don't need, or polygons we don't need. Again, I'm going to put a symmetry on, and that's going to symmetry the right side to the left. I'm going to put another symmetry on and change the mirror axis to Y, and then just make sure I flip the direction that's happening in. So now I have my arch. It has its pieces on there. I can right click on this and say convert to edit poly to make that permanent. I can also take a look at it. Yeah, there we go. So when I did my, now that the model's complete, one thing, and I don't talk about this often enough in my tutorials, is once a model's complete, you can select the reference and delete it. You no longer need it. And then let's with this model selected, I'm going to change my control here to selection center. Oh, I have more than one thing selected, that's why. So let's just select the arch. Now let's name it arch, and then we can see down here the world position, it's at 0. Rotations are all at 0, and the scale is at 100%. So that means it's its actual full size. Now, those are things you're going to want to watch out for when you're creating an asset for games. Sometimes also what helps is if you go to utilities, there's a tool called Reset Xform. If you don't see it here, you can click in more and kind of look and see if you have it inside of there. But basically, you click on Reset Xform and say Reset Selected. When you come back to Modify, you'll see that on there. If you right click and say just Collapse to and say yes, what that does is it resets any odd scale that you may have on your model, which is a very nice thing to have. And so now we've finished off our arch. Make sure you save that, take a snip of it and turn it in. And that's the end of the tutorial.